Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming out in this wonderful Florida weather.
We're working on it.
Janice, do you want to take roll call?
President Davidson,
Here.
Vice President Ricketts,
Present.
Secretary Kincaid, present, Treasurer Hahn,
Present.
Director Argot, Director Hector, absent, Director Sauvé, Director Setzer, absent, and you have a quorum.
And I'll call the meeting to order, and you please rise for pledge allegiance to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on the agenda is the approval of the draft board meeting of Friday, October 1st, which the board has in its packet. I have a motion to approve the minutes. Can I have a second? Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The October 1st Federation Board minutes are approved. Second item on the agenda is the approval of the November 5th special board meeting, October 29th special board meeting. Thank you. It's also in your packet. Thank you, Barbara. Second. Thank you, Liz. Any discussion? Then the approval of the October 29th special board meeting are approved. Next item on the agenda is the management report, and Keith, I will give you the honor of going first.
It's an honor, thank you for that. Good morning, everybody, happy Friday, happy rainy Friday. This is the first service management report for the month of October. Run quickly through it. Again, just a quick note as always, every board member sitting up here has paid up on their dues and are owners of the lots that they represent. Quickly for financials, the month of October, just so the board knows and the rest of the associations, will have two sets of financials completed. Obviously, we're closing out the Bank United financials, so there'll be a reconciliation on those, as well as the first set of City National Bank financials for every association. So may take a little bit longer than normal to get the financials out. We'll still hit that 21st deadline, but again, there will be two sets for every association coming out. Annual budget presentation, we're coming right up on it. It is Friday, November 19th. It's going to be immediately following the Federation membership meeting. We've compiled almost all the data for that, and we'll have a nice presentation going from First Service and Vesta. And should have, again, all the bulk information together, and all the individual association budget packets will be able for pickup earlier that week as well. So you'll have your own association budget, we'll recap everything, and then you'll jump into just reviewing your individual association budgets. And again, if you need to get with myself, your CAM, we'll be able to set up those times after the 19th to review any additional items for your association. Operations for the First Service office, there are no longer mask requirements for residents inside the lobby, so as you come in, you're free to wear a mask if you'd like to, but you're not required to. Administration for the month of October, we had an uptick in transfers with 37. We're starting to see increases in leases. We had 45 for October, so that continues to pick up again, which is a good sign. We had about 3,500 phone calls. We did about 530 pest control appointments, over 1,000 folks through the front door. We we completed 67 alteration forms, 14 violations, and drew up 9 new contracts. Just a quick note again, the insurance committee, First Service and USI held a nice workshop last month with a lot of really great information covering the forecast for the next coming policy renewals, as well as HO6 policies and who covers what, unit owner versus association. If you have any questions, again, feel free to reach out to myself or Adam Lopatin at USI. And we just want to keep pushing as much information we can about insurance out there so everybody knows what's covered, what's not, and where they should fill those gaps in. Trash collection. So we are coming up on a period where we have to do a new trash collection contract. FCC is the new provider that has won the contract with Hillsborough County for your area. So they'll be taking over the residential side again, starting in the end of January. So January 31st is the official start date for them. The board here is working with myself to get a new commercial dumpster contract going. So we have each 3 providers that are available for bids. We've received those and are reviewing those now. And we'll be putting out to the membership, hopefully in the December membership. We're looking to try to get that approved as quickly as possible for the changeover. It's going to be an interesting transition process, not only for the residential side, because you're going to have a new provider coming into the area. So, we'll have some information coming out from that. Just them knowing the routes, making sure they pick up everything. So, they're all kind of bracing us for a transition period of, might miss your street because it's a new driver. But we'll try to work through that and communicate with the vendor throughout the whole time. So I think it'll be as smooth as possible, but they're expecting some hiccups. Lastly, not lastly, but hurricane season. We're in the home stretch for hurricane season. It ends later this month. Done really well so far with no storms. Been great for our area here. And if there's any other communications that will need to be sent out for any possible storms, we'll do that with the disaster committee. And then the next disaster symposium will be March 7th, so a little bit earlier this year, and we'll be meeting back with that committee, I think at the start of the year to ramp that back up and get those communications back out there to the community. Landscaping, we had a decent turnout for the landscaping workshop last week. We discussed all things oak trees, about what they should look like, how we're trying to trim them, and how some of them are real close to houses and water lines. So a lot of good information there. And then Ryan talked about Florida-friendly plants. Right plant in the right place is a big terminology now. So again, a lot of good information. Love to have more people out to it. So we'll continue those through this year and into next year. The vendor contracts. The RFP was sent out to approximately 30 bidders early this week, so the RFP is out there, and we'll be collecting those back in over the next couple of weeks. We'll be doing a on-site visit with those vendors for the RFP, doing a tour of the property, answering any of their questions, and hopefully we'll have some solid bidders back in there to bring to the membership. And I think the projected timeline is in the January membership to be able to present those for approval. And again, as each 4 sections are up for bid. Mulch has been completed for the fall session. There are still some secondary orders for folks that have reordered some extra bags, so those will be coming in next week. We'll get those installed and reach out to you directly. The spring installation period will start in the middle of March, so we'll be reaching out to those associations that elected for the spring installation towards the end of February. So definitely had some better improvement on the installation. Delivery was okay. So we saw, I think, a good improvement, and it always helps when POC and board members are engaged with us and helping, direct the vendors throughout their community. So we'll continue to work on that process and try to build that up. Work orders for the month of October in the system, we had 75 work orders. Big portion of that is the requests. So we had 60 requests from the associations throughout all 4 sections. So just a massive uptick in requests for proposals or items to look at, so good sign folks are coming back, good sign people are looking to maybe swap out some sod or landscaping, so that was the majority of those 75 is the request items. Average days to complete those was about 4 days. And lastly, again, as we have more and more people come back, and as the 60-day notices go out to the memberships or to the associations for the annual meetings, we're going to keep asking for those emergency contact sheets to come back in there. We'll be talking more about that at the meetings as well, but again, just trying to gather all that data. Ginger always talks about, the importance of needing those to reach out to folks in case of an emergency, not only on our end, but for her end as well, so it's great to have those back. Anytime you have somebody that might have something, let us know, and we can get you the sheet or just get the information updated. Lastly, the banking transition with City National Bank has been completed. So all the monies have been transferred over. We're closing out the Bank United accounts, and really has been a smooth process on the associations. Not a lot needed for them, but internally it's went well, and we'll be wrapping all that up this month. That's all I have, Jack.
One question for you, to show you we do read your report. You have work orders for September for the palm and oak trimming at 160.
Okay.
Just for clarifying that is the work orders that we give to Brown on a monthly basis of what needs to be trimmed. Is that correct, or is those truly work orders that?
That's a combination of what Ryan gathers and then what the POCs or board members submit to us, so it's a combination of.
Okay, so it is the monthly maintenance.
Yeah.
work
We
orders.
broke that out to show it differently because there's gonna be high numbers of that.
No,
But it's
I
Ryan jotting it down, and they put it into the system for Browns, and it's also POCs that put an actual work order into the system. We track that.
Yeah, I was just looking for clarification, that's the monthly maintenance, correct? All right. Any other questions?
There we go. Keith, I have a question for you. When Browns comes through the community, they go into every association, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and if there were not any POC work orders, they still go through and identify those palms or other trees that may need to.
Yeah, we've gotten back with the, account manager or John himself when he's here to review each section that they're in, and each association, they're gonna do a drive-through to make sure that they can catch any of the brown fronds or things on the roof, so that is still the plan for them to go do that.
And people who have had several of their palms missed or whatever need to put in a work order or contact you or Ryan?
Yeah, either way, yep.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Then Ginger, I will turn the meeting over to you. I don't know if you want Dan to go first, or you want to go through your report.
I'll go first. Good morning, everybody. We'll start off with just some recreational operation usage. If you can look at your numbers there, you can see in the fitness center, we've got 8,000 total gym usage, and then it lists aquatics and land class. As a point of reference, on a normal year, we do over 140,000 visits to the fitness program, which equates to an average of about 11,500 per month. Well, all those numbers tally 11,301. So I'm just pointing it out because very much like Keith was saying, folks are coming back, life is getting back to normal, and the usage in the facilities is looking like historically we're used to. In the salon and spa, we have, you can see their sales and merchandise and services sales, just 90% of the prior September revenue. That didn't change much during COVID. So with that massage therapist back in, that's climbing back up to a normal level. In food and beverage, I won't read all these numbers to you, but you can see the total sales for October, 94% of budgeted plan. As a reminder to the folks in the audience, those budgets were made in the fall of COVID year, and with the board's guidance and our shining up the crystal ball, we had to look into the future, and we got pretty close, so we're real pleased that that's coming back. LaPerk, of course, just opened. We've just got the first 2 weeks there, somewhat of a soft opening, selling a lot of coffee and soda, but apparently breakfast sandwiches and hot dogs are a hot item out there. So between the two of those, sold about 100 of those combined for the first 2 weeks. But Chris and Andrew report the Rockin' Rendezvous are over a couple hundred people, and they are rocking, and people are having a good time. So all good news. On the project update, we have the South Club pool deck expansion RFP process completed. We have got 3 bids and are preparing for vendor discussions, and ultimately we'll be bringing a recommendation to the board for consideration. The permit for that project is in the county and nearing the final stages of approval. The lobby and cafe flooring replacement is completed. For those of you who have been down there, it's just beautiful, real fresh new look. The indoor pool project is still underway. That won't complete until sometime in mid-November. We've got some HVAC units scheduled for replacement, and the shuffleboard complex resurfacing on those courts, that's scheduled to begin in the 4th quarter, and Victoria's undergoing the bid process for that. In special event information, just like to, for Matthew and his team to make a note that in partnership with the Emergency Squad, the CERT team, and the Sun City Center Security Patrol, along with Vesta, all work together as a team to successfully host the Kings Point Booster Vaccine Program. Over the 2-day period, 1,300 community members received their booster shots. A huge thank you to all who were involved in the planning of operations of that event, and a special gratitude to Emergency Squad Chief Mike Bardell, Liz Argot, Bob Preston, and Marianne Meeker, who were crucial to helping making the pharmacy arrangements. Thank you also to Karen Coons and Suze Hill from the Pickleball Club for once again hosting the hospitality suite, and the nurses and the volunteers were extremely grateful for all the community donations and efforts. So I'd like a round of applause for that group. It's a wonderful, wonderful community coming together and doing good things for each other. Turning back to operations, the Winter Series brochures are available. If you previously held seats and not renewed them, please come to the box office and get more information. The Alzheimer's Lunch and Learn seminars hosted by Care Access were filled to capacity, and they will be hosting additional upcoming seminars. This type of programming will continue as we partner with local hospitals and senior agencies to bring in these vital services. November 3rd and following every first Wednesday of each month, we will continue to host Jen's Open Air Market. How many were out there? Did any of you see that? Beautiful day. They had over 45 vendors. I know I spent way too much money on food and gifts for my kids, but it was really a nice offering out there. Monthly line dances on November 7th here in the Vesco Theater. Singles Mingles is back on November 20th, and we have the Holiday Arts and Crafts Fairs held in the theater. Jack, I didn't mention the holiday. Are you going to say? Okay, I'll skip that thing. So we got the Holiday Arts and Crafts Fair held in the theater on December 7th. Looking ahead, the Veterans Theater will have a New Year's Eve party with DJ Darlene Meadows, and tickets are now available at the box office. We'll just skip down to the security operations. Again, you can see those numbers climbing. They did just under 8,400 calls received in October at the gate and issued over 13,300 passes. And final notable, at board request some time ago, and prior board member, bless his heart, Rick Massanet, there was a request to enhance our security procedures, entry procedures at the gate. And we're happy to announce that this gate security has finished the installation and configuration of security's driver's license scanner system. Beginning November 1st, Gate Security will conduct a pilot program testing, implementing, and creating the protocols and standard operating procedures for licensed scanning with a designated group of visitors. They've targeted the health caregivers, correct, Luann? As our pilot program to test this out on. Officers will be informing caregivers of the license scan requirement for gate entry. Flyers will be handed out to the caregivers to advise them of the driver's license scanning requirements and to help alleviate traffic delays. And then after refining this implementation process further, we will then turn to the residents and start educating about the new protocol and request residents to notify their visitors of the scanning requirement. In addition, we will be putting out signage and flyers. And it's a process, but we'll get there, and it's just one more helpful tool at the gate to know who's coming in. If you have any further detailed questions, Luann is over there. Wave your hand if you have any questions about that. And that is my report, and then I will be turning it over to Dan Armstrong for the second quarter P&L report. Dan had surgery on Wednesday, so he's hobbling around and couldn't be here today. So he'll be delivering on the call. Are you there, Dan?
Dan,
I am. Good morning, everybody. Apologies for not being there in person, but I did have some bad timing with the schedule of the procedure. But I'm up and about. I sound a little groggy. I apologize. I've got Chris Timmerman, the facilities controller, in here to help me prod me along in case I stutter or go too slow because of painkillers. But let's start out. Of course, you've got your typical 8-page report. Statement of financial position is on the front page. That is your picture of a point in time as to the health of the facility, otherwise called the balance sheet in the for-profit world. But let's start with that top section. You can see assets and then total cash. Your total cash, look at that first subtotal, you can see it's down $480,000. Most of that is planned. There were some cash movements between the reserves as a part of the budget that occurred on April 1st. First of all, capital reserves moved $275,000 into the replacement reserves, and the operating reserve moved $151,000. So the remainder of all that change, just operating cash decreasing, mostly for normal timing differences. As most of you remember, we do purchase the insurance policy at about $350,000 in one payment every year. And there are other timing differences that have cash lower than normal. Otherwise, we are performing the budget, as you'll see in the next page, so it's not a continuing cash loss problem like we had last year during COVID. Going on down into the second section, the fourth line of that is where you can see the impact of the prepaids. That's the insurance policy, that fourth line. If you look at the right-hand column, it's $189,000 higher than at year-end because every April 30th is when we renew that policy. So that's cash that's been spent for an asset that will last you the entire year. So the value of it comes back to you across the year by prepaying it. Going on down, remember the fixed asset section called with the subtotal total property and equipment. We do not make changes to that other than booking the monthly amortization. During the year, we capitalize all the assets at the end of the year, so we'll have a lot of conversation about that at the end of the year, not much during the year. And then your long-term leases, of course, have its normal monthly amortization amount of quarterly, about $162,000. Looking at the next section, continuing down current liabilities, not much change there between all the line items you wouldn't expect to. Now that we're back operating, we're mostly back operating by, March 31st, which was the end of the prior fiscal year. Accounts payable was solid and not much variance there. You do see in the next section a big decrease in long-term debt. Thankfully, that's what you would expect. That's 6 payments decreasing your long-term debt about $776,000 of those 6 payments since year-end. And remember, I didn't preface this up front. Your comparison column, the middle column, is prior year-end. So you're comparing 9/30 to prior year-end. This is just the difference between those two periods. And then take your eyes all the way to the bottom. You can total liabilities and net assets have decreased by about $1.1 million. Much of that is amortization and payment of debt. Nothing to worry about there, but of course that agrees to your total assets subtotal at the middle of the page. That's how your balance sheet works. Going on to page 2, and feel free to anybody to stop me at any time, otherwise I'll keep barreling along best I can. Yes, sir.
Yeah, let me catch you while you're here then, the long-term debt, so the gross long-term debt, 53,463,583. $53,463,583. That's the amount that we owe to, well, the bank, it's King Point Finance, which is that we owe. That's on the current amortization that we owe, correct? Yeah. And then
That's correct.
okay, and then you took the current portion and moved that up. The less deferred loan cost asset, so you reduced it by $8 million. Why is that?
That is GAAP accounting, essentially. You probably remember the old method that changed just 4 or 5 years ago, where you would have an asset on your books called deferred loan asset, and it would decrease by the amortization. GAAP changed about 3 years ago or so. They want you to net it against the long-term debt to create this, I call it bogus figure that is that subtotal of total long-term debt. It represents kind of the fair market value of your long-term debt as netted against the cost that you incurred to get that long-term debt. So it's a total GAAP presentation, but you're absolutely right. The top line is your debt amount. You subtract the current portion to get the long-term portion. So you would really just pay attention to those first two numbers. 53,463 minus 1.489 is your long-term debt, and then the 1.489 is your short current portion.
So
Does that answer your question?
well, sort of. So the $8 million, that's the prepaid penalty that we paid, correct, to refinance? Is that what that is?
Yeah, plus all other costs. It also included your commitment fee and closing costs.
Right, so $7.8 million for the prepaid and about $250,000 or $60,000 closing costs. So, but I still am not sure why, so why is that taken out? Why is that reduced from the total that we owe?
Yeah.
But we owe that, correct? That's what we owe. We paid that, we owe
To
that.
get the best explanation, you need to ask a current CPA, but it's all GAAP rules. You know, generally accepted accounting principles. This is the way they require you present it.
All right, okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, going on to page 2. Remember, pages 2 and 4 of this presentation are just the detail showing the segment or departmental results and consolidating it into a combined column on the far right-hand side. That far right-hand side agrees to the current column of the page that we just left. All right, so there's a lot of detail there to show you how the cash and receivables and everything are spread across the department. Going on to page 3, excuse me, is your consolidated statement of cash activities, also known as a profit and loss. Let's take our eyes, of course, your comparison here, by the way, is the budget. So we're not comparing the prior year. I've got 6 months or 2 quarters in the first column, and the budget for that period and a variance column. If you look about 3/4 the way down the page, now let's start with, halfway down the page, there's a break called income/loss from operations. That is the result from all their operations for those 6 months on a combined basis. You can see it's $46,000 favorable. That's very good news. That means gone, hopefully, are the days of COVID making us off budget. So this is through 6 months being back on budget, and that's really good news. $46,000 there. And we'll talk more about the detailed line items on the other pages, because this is consolidated. The next section, hello. The next section is where all your debt service and management fees, amortization, et cetera. The variances in this section are interest income, as we talked about quarterly. We're earning a lot less interest than we had imagined 18 months ago when we made this budget. And then there's a line item, the last line item of that section has about 31,000 and change of board approved capital items.
Hey, Dan, can I interrupt?
So that brings your pay.
Dan, can
Yeah,
I
sure.
interrupt you for a minute? Whoever does not have their phone muted, could you kindly mute your phone?
Sounds like somebody's in a car.
I know, we don't need to listen to people singing and music going on. Could you please mute your phones? Go ahead, Dan, just keep going.
Might be. All right, will do. So the next section is the non-operating income and expenses. And as I was saying, the big item there is the board-approved non-budgeted items. It's about $31,000 worth of items that went through the special approval process and were passed. And the good news is that did not bring operations down to a negative. We actually have still about $1,000 positive on operations. That's that break that says change in net assets of $895. And then that same number carries down to the net cash flow at the bottom of the page. Now, got a little louder. The fourth page, of course, is the consolidating page where the detail of the four segments consolidated into one. Again, that right-hand column agrees to the left-hand column of the prior page. A lot of detail there, so we won't go through that unless anybody has any questions. But it's always presented there. Page 5 is your actual versus budget for the trust. The trust, remember, doesn't have operations, but it does handle all your debt service. It is where we recognize the interest earnings on your deposits, and that's where the variance is in that first section. Last line item in the first section, you can see the right-hand column, or about almost $14,000 off budget. Carry on down to the other income and expense section. That's the third major section, the last line item, and all of those board approved special items. So this is where the major of your substantial part of your negative variance are here in the trust, which means it's all good in the operating stuff. We'll get through it in a second. Going to the bottom right-hand corner, your net cash flow for the trust is negative $45,000, again, made up of those two line items. Go to page 6. Page 6 is your rec area. Let's start with the bottom right-hand corner. You can see that it's a positive number, so it's about $26,000 rounded favorable variance to budget through 6 months. Scanning back up, you can see that revenues are actually off $11,000. So that must mean that there's a big savings in the expenses, and indeed, go to that total expense break, right-hand column, is $37,000 rounded favorable variance in expenses, which renders that $25,000 positive variance. And you can see the items that are over and under using that right-hand column year to date. If you want to look at the quarter, it's of course the third column from those variances. All right, going on to page 7, security. Security, very briefly, bottom right-hand corner, positive number, right at $9,000. That means it's favorable to variance. Scanning back up, looking at that right column, you can see where that came from, a little bit of labor savings, a little bit of administrative costs, et cetera. And the same thing with the quarterly amount, if you want to review that, just scan left. Go on to page 8. Page 8 is your transportation division, bottom right hand number, positive again. That's good news, $11,627. Favorable variance to budget. Again, scanning up, straight up from that number, you can see the positive variance, most of it is in the very first expense line, employee wages and benefits of about $10,000. Offset a little bit below it, and some implemented by us, but that's where that comes from. So, that's all I've got, so let's get to the questions. We have it.
We have no questions, Dan, and I appreciate you going through the report.
No worries, would you, anybody anticipate me being needed, or should I drop off?
I don't anticipate anybody on the board want Dan to stay on. No, Dan, you can go take your drugs and have a good day.
Thank you so much, I'm ready to ice again.
Bye.
All right, take care. Bye, guys.
We can't read it, we can just increase the volume. So that'll take us to committee reports. And I'll just go around the table. Liz, do you have anything?
No, I don't, other than to,
Mike?
I don't have anything really to report, other than to jump in where Ginger was saying what a great job the folks have done. And with the booster shots, and kudos to Matt and the entire group. When we did our symposium presentation, we said it takes a village. If anybody, any of you were out there, either Monday or Tuesday, the whole village was there, and it was working beautifully. Thanks, guys, and really kudos. We've got the best.
Janice?
Nothing.
Everything's going fine with insurance, right?
Well, we just can't find out anything yet. It's too early.
Tom, do you have anything on lawn and landscape outside of what Keith had to say?
No, outside of what Keith had to say, I don't have anything to add to it at this point.
Alan, you do not have a treasurer's report because you gave one for the second quarter earlier. Okay. Barbara?
Still pending.
Okay. So Alan, seeing you don't have a treasurer's report, we will move to the president's report. One thing of interest is the Federation had a resignation from the board in District 2 during the month of October. We notified District 2 of the vacancy and proposed a special election for the remainder of the term, which ends at the end of March 2023. There was no nominations and no applicants to fill the District 2 seat, and therefore the District 2 seat shall remain vacant until we do the elections, which are scheduled in February, March timeframe, which will be reported at our annual meeting. There is no sense in appointing someone because that would be giving them a term basically of a month and a half or 2 months. So we are leaving that seat vacant until the election. All residents that First Service or the Federation has email addresses to were notified. I believe the email went out on Monday. Mabel, is that correct? They were notified last Monday that there was no applicants and therefore they would have no representation on the board for District 2 until at least the end of the election on April 1st of 2022. To remind everyone, and Ginger kindly passed it to me, that there will be a tree lighting, Christmas tree lighting ceremony on November 26th. It is the first annual, and as you notice, there are two fir trees in Charles Haskell Park now. They replaced the one that had died. Those will be lit. There will be, just for your information, they will have carolers there that evening. They will have a food truck, and rumor has it that there will be a visit from Santa Claus, which should make the residents very happy. In regard to the Taste of the Holidays, which is December 13th, the leadership team, which includes Vesta, First Service, the Master, the COA, and the Federation have been working very diligently on putting it together. We expect it to really be a fun event. So far, we have received donations from some businesses within Sun City and from our vendors. And Keith, you're going to keep me honest. So far, the donations probably are somewhere between $7,500 and $10,000 worth of prizes to be raffled off. This is only available to residents of Kings Point, and more information will be forthcoming on the raffle. There's just about no item in those raffle items that is not covering things. We have everything from the 2-night stay at the Gasparilla Inn down to pizza coupons with iPads and earpods for your phone, along with nail trimming, salon services. The Land Trust did put into the raffle the entire series, 2 tickets for the entire series, and then tickets for the individual series. We did get donations from the bingo folks, and they donated certificates from 2 tickets for bingo at their choosing. There are Bucks tickets, there are Lightning tickets. The Lightning tickets are in a suite that include food and beverage. So it's going to be a lot of fun and a lot of opportunity for the residents of Kings Point, and there's a lot of work being put together. In addition, Mary Ann Meeker has been working diligently as a part of this with an angel tree from the Mary and Martha House, which should be put in the lobby of the North Clubhouse. Am I correct, Mary Ann?
Yes.
Please watch for that. You will be seeing notices coming out from Vesta on a lot of these items. Anything you can contribute or utilizing for the angel tree, I can tell you that Mary Ann Martha House has been very good. One additional item, and I'm not naming the vendors, but 2 of our vendors have notified us and are preparing checks to the Mary Ann Martha House in the name of the Kings Point community. And right now that stands at $1,250 of pure cash that we'll have to donate, plus our proceeds. And we probably will receive more. So our vendors have come through when we've asked them to. One of the bigger prizes, and I know Ginger's very proud of it, is Vesta Properties for both the Master and the Land Trust donated a $500 Amazon gift card. And Ginger's famous for knowing you can even buy a kidney or a liver if you need one on Amazon, because we pick on her quite a bit. So please watch forward to the, I won't let you forget that, Ginger. Please watch forward to the upcoming event and the notices that will go out. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you buy raffle tickets, the one thing I want to let you know that you won't have to fill out your name for the raffle tickets. The entire thing will be done by numbers. And the numbers of the winning tickets will be posted on the wheel and probably sent out by email from the master, Vesta, and First Service that will list the categories and list the winning ticket numbers. So no one will know who the tickets belong to until they go to pick up their prize at the First Service office the next day. We're really looking forward to this. There's a lot of involvement by the clubs. There's a lot of involvement by Vesta and some of the things they're doing in First Service, so we appreciate it. And especially keep an eye out for the angel tree going up. It is a very worthwhile cause, and Mary Ann is putting a lot of effort in working with the Mary Ann Martha House on that. And thank you, Mary Ann, for your work on that. It's very much appreciated. And with that, we will allow it for open forum. Is there any open forum? So there is no unfinished business, and we move to new business, and I'm going to switch this up on Alan. The first item of new business that I would like to do is the approval on request from Down to Earth. Just to let you know that Down to Earth in Section 2 has failed and paid penalty for failure in Section 2. They have had a problem getting folks to, their own folks to be able to do the ergonomics and the treatment of the lawns and weeds and stuff. So they requested from the board, as required of them in their contract, if they want to hire a subcontractor, they would have to get approval from the board. They have come to the board and requested they be allowed to hire PowerX. PowerX has worked within the community for other vendors over the last 3 or 4 years. So I would move that we approve the request from Down to Earth to allow them to hire PowerX.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? And I will call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And Keith, you can notify Down to Earth that the Federation Board has approved their request for the use of PowerX for their ergonomics, for the fertilization, pest control, things such as that for the lawn system. And with that, I will turn the meeting over to Alan. For one of the first times that we were able to find, the Federation Board decided to have the Federation financials for the Federation budget audited. And we have finally received the audit report from Page and Company, which was the vendor we selected to do the work. So Alan, I will turn it over to you and let you cover that.
All right, thank you, Jack. And I will be very brief. Of course, the first pages of the report are the independent accountant's audit report, and he gives a clean audit, a clean opinion of our financials. The balance sheet is, there's cents and there's rounded figures. The balance sheet is the same as what I reported, with the exception of $1. I rounded up, he rounded down. So my report says $1 more, his report says $1 less of our cash and assets. Other than that, it's exactly what I reported in my report. I do on report, and if you want to follow on page 4, the revenues and expenses. And I just want to note here, the way the accountant recognizes our revenues is he recognizes them as revenues when we need to spend that money in expenses. And he does that basically for tax purposes, because all the other money that comes in, any money that goes into our reserves, and even into our balances, very much the same as each association does at the end of your year. You have you approve a motion that says any money that's unspent is going to be carried forward and used in the next years for your budget. You do that so you don't have to pay income tax on it. It's not revenue to you. It's money in your reserves that you're going to use for future years. So it's not revenue. So the revenue he actually recognized is the same as the expenditures. So the revenue number is different than what I reported as revenue. And what I'm going to do is change my report going forward and not call money coming in revenues. I'm going to call it receipts. That's what it is. It's money that we received. I think I'm still going to continue. It makes sense to report to the community monthly on basically a cash basis. You want to see the cash that comes in, the receipts that come in, which is revenue, but it's also money that could go into our reserve accounts that we don't spend now, that we're going to spend maybe in the future. So I'll just call that receipts and keep reporting it that way. So you'll notice again, his revenues is the same as the expenditures. Again, for tax purposes, that's all he recognized as revenues. I'm not going to go through really the rest of the report. There's just a few more numbers in there, their cash flow statement. And there's a lot of information, of course, in the notes. The notes is very important. It describes a lot of things, the nature of our organization, the summary of our accounting policies, significant accounting policies, just talks about income taxes and various things. The notes are important. I'm not going to read those through right now, but that information is there in the audit report. And so that's the report. Again, I recommend that we accept this report today.
Motion. Thank you, Liz. May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I do have one comment to make, seeing we're in the discussion phase of this. For the association presidents and residents of Kings Point, one, if this is accepted and you want a copy of it, when you go through it, there is a point in the notes which Alan and I basically looked at it and said, what? And what it reads, just for your information, and it's the one note I was hoping Alan would read, it says concentration of credit risk. The Federation's primary source of income is assessments paid by owners of the member associations. The Federation policy is to retain legal counsel and place liens on properties of the member associations whose assessments are delinquent. Interest is charged on past due accounts in accordance with the Federation covenants. Should the collection of such liens be enforced by the sale of the unit, the collectability of the receivable is dependent on the quick sale market value of the unit. When this report came out, I looked at Alan and said, the Federation has the capability of placing liens on our members' associations. And we went back and we talked to First Service, and we fortunately didn't have to go to council, but there is an exhibit to our bylaws. And in our bylaws, Exhibit A, if I am correct, Alan, was Exhibit A, it specifically states that the Federation has the right to lien association properties. It was originally, I think, put in as a part of, and Ginger, you have probably a lot more history on this, it was put in a part of when we originally bought the trust property, because it allows us to lien if the people don't pay their mortgages on the trust property. But fortunately or unfortunately, it says it's not limited to just the trust property, it's for any assessment that is delinquent. So I just wanted to make a note, so if people get a copy of this report and they read it and they go, where did the Federation ever get the right to lien a member association? And unfortunately, if you lien the association, you lien all the properties within that association. It has never been done. I don't think it ever would be, but it is a part of the audit, and we did research it when the auditor came back, and it goes to show that you learn a lot from an audit. So with that, if there is no other discussion, I will call the question. All in favor of accepting the audit? Opposed? Then the audit is accepted by the Federation Board. It is available through a records request to any association. It will be provided to you most likely in a PDF format. Mabel does have an email copy of it, so she can provide it. Once a record request, I would take the opportunity to tell the individuals in the community and the boards of the associations to get a copy of it, go through it. It gives a pretty good detail in the summary notes of exactly what is going on with the Federation Board's budget. And it's nice to know that after all these years, it's still correct going forward. So it gives you the capability of answering any questions that you may come up on the Federation Board's budget. With that, I will move to the good and welfare. Does anybody have any good and welfare announcements? Seeing there are none, I will take a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Liz. Second? All in favor? Meeting is adjourned.